Hello, Mr. Minnick, helping my Python students with initials worksheet number 2. Now this is a takeoff of your initials worksheet number 1, which you've already designed your initials by carefully drawing them on this paper. So I have the letter C in my name. I think I have it starting at this point here, approximately. The C then comes down tilted over here to this point. I have a line drawn, and this has all been done on my graph paper ahead of time. And now I'm simply typing the code or writing out the code that would make this display on the screen in such a way that, well, sorry about the crooked lines there, but there's the letter C as I have it drawn on my paper. My last initial N is down here roughly like this, and you can see the video that corresponds to those letters. Well, this is the point right here, -30, 180, using the XY notation from this graph paper. And this point right here, this dot, is the point -160. It's labeled, of course, because it was your job to label your points. And we will need those numbers in our code. So moving on then to get started on this worksheet. Now I could print neatly, but since I can use the text tool in the software that I'm using to make this video, I'll do that. We start with documentation at the top of the program. Hashtag and whatever your teacher specifies. In my case, I want everybody to put their name at the top. Usually I ask you to identify the code segment with what it is. You might have to type in which period you're in, but now we get to the fancy stuff, the actual code. Well, we have to import the turtle library, all lowercase. We'll learn more about the word import later in the school year. And we have to create a turtle object with which we will draw lines. In some years that I teach this course, I name a turtle Tina, and I say equals turtle.turtle. And really, Tina is just the name of some example that I tend to use when I teach this course from some website, trinket.io. Well, let's be a little bit more descriptive here and accurate. So I could use pen. That would make more sense because it's a pen that I'm using to draw on the screen. But the default color of a pen in Python is black. And in case I want to add other colors to make my output more colorful, I'm going to look ahead and name my variable black pen instead of just the more generic pen. And we certainly would not just use a P. That would be nonsensical because nobody else would know what P stands for. They wouldn't even know it's a pen, much less a black pen. And my rules on naming variables: a variable always begins with a lowercase first letter. And if there is a second word, you certainly can't put a space in there. You can't put a space in like a username or a variable in computer science. So without the space, to make it easier to read, that would be hard for people, especially if they don't speak English as a first language. They might not know that there are two words there. So we capitalize the P so it stands out as the beginning of a second word. It was old-fashioned to use an underscore. You'll still see some people do that, but my style is to capitalize that second word. Okay, this T has to be uppercase. That T has to be lowercase. Maybe we'll study that syntax, as it's called, later in the school year. But with that out of the way, import turtle and turtle.turtle, I can now put a blank line in for good style and start my action. Well, we we have to first look at our graph and decide where are we going to start this. Are we going to start up here and draw counterclockwise, those 3 line segments? Or we could start here and draw that way. I don't think it would make sense to start at this point and draw that line, and then pick up the pen, move it here perhaps, put the pen down, and then draw that line and that line. There is a more logical way to do this, and I'm just going to pick one of those logical ways, and I'm going to start here and go clockwise to draw the letter C. So this point is the point -30, 180. And there is a go-to command that we've learned in the Python that allows you to take a turtle, or in this case a black pen, and go directly to a given point on the XY interface coordinate system above. That point, if I remember from a second ago, was the point -30, 180. And of course, if I were in the software like at Replit or Trinket or using some program like Thawny, I could test this as I go. But sometimes on a test, like the AP exam or Unit 1 test that I might give next week, you often have to know how to write simple code like this from memory, from just thinking about it, from logic, from past studying. Okay, so I hit the enter key because that line of code should work, and now I'm going to do use blackpen.goto, and I'm going to find the second point on this counterclockwise visit around the letter C. -160, 160 is are the numbers that I would put here in the parentheses. I need the parentheses there. This all needs to be lowercase, the word go to with a dot. That's just the way it has to be. And lastly, for the letter C, I need one more line segment, line go to. Now, I'm winging it right now. I don't ever want to see you do that. Actually, I have 2 more points. This point right here is the point -160, -20. Of course, you don't try to do things in your head. You should have written them out like I did on a previous video. And the other point that finishes the letter C is this point right here, going from this, to use the goto command to go from here to here. I have to know the coordinates of this last point, which are -30, 0. I would love to test this, but I can't right now, and I'm just hoping that it works, and it should. Now, all of this code kind of goes together to create the letter C, so I should add, according to the 5th step of the programming process, I should add documentation, which is another way of saying adding comments. So I'll just say letter C. It's an uppercase C, so maybe you say uppercase letter C. You be as descriptive as you can. Some people tab the comments over, and they put it over here in this white space, so it's easier to see. And I can't really resize this window. Yes, I can. So some people do this. Other people sometimes just put their comments over here on the left. Don't forget the hashtag. That's crucial. And maybe they do something like this. Setting up the screen or setting up the pen to add explanation for that section of the code. Oh, it's already done, but putting the pen down is something that you might want to do either here or just making sure that the pen is down by typing blackpen.pendown. If the pen were up from a previous letter, then this code would execute, but it just wouldn't draw anything because it would be like your pen hovering 1 millimeter above the paper and not actually being down, touching the paper. And you do have control over pen down and pen up in Python. So looking ahead to the rest of this exercise, when I make the uppercase M, that's down below my last initial, don't forget to put your pen down. Oh, we need to make sure that we put the pen up at the end of the letter C so that we can then do a go to and go to the first spot of the M. Because remember, we just finished with our pen right here. If you directly do a go to this point, you'll get a stray mark going across the screen that you certainly don't want. So we do pen up, we do a go to this spot, and then a pen down. And on my previous video, this isn't very accurate here, but the spot right there is -150, -190. If you watch that previous video. So -150, -190, but only after, well, that's perfect. Pen up, then we go to that spot, but then we have to remember to put the pen down. The pen down has to be done after that go to, not before it. Test it out otherwise, and you'll see why. And you'll be able to reason it out in the future. Okay, the next point, because I chose to start here in this corner of the letter M, I want to go to this point, which in the previous video was the point -90, -30. -90, -30. If I executed this Python program at this time, it should work, unless I forgot something, which as a teacher I sometimes do. I have bugs sometimes in my own code. We would see the letter C draw. There would be no stray mark in connecting the two letters, and we would see this first slant of the letter M. But I have not finished the code for these other three lines that are part of the letter M. That code would be on my to-do list. Let's pretend that the bell rang or it was time to go to bed for homework. To do, finish the letter M. So often I put a to-do reminder in my code if I need to finish something up or figure out why something isn't working. I spell it T-O-D-O. A lot of coders do this. Okay, I hope you enjoyed this head start on Initials Worksheet 2. After you do the basic black pen, perhaps matching your interface that you drew here, you can add code that changes different letters or even parts of letters to different colors. You could maybe play with the speed of the pen so that it animates slow in some parts. You could speed it up by using the speed function, or slow it down. Actually, bigger numbers mean that it makes it go slower. Bigger numbers in the parentheses. Speed 0 makes it all draw instantaneously without seeing the animation, which can actually save you time as you're developing the program. You can use goto like I did in this video, but you can also use the forward, backward, right, and left commands if that's the way you prefer to move the turtle around the screen. Goto is just one way of doing it, or you could mix the two ways. There might be other turtle commands or functions that you type after the dot symbol that you've learned at the special website called the Turtle API, which is found at python.org and also linked in my website, See Me for Extra Help, if you want to find some other commands. If you just randomly use Google to search, you might be finding Python commands that are from an earlier version of Python or some other turtle-related things that aren't even Python code. They might be another computer language like Java or Logo. So be careful when you just do a straight-up Google search for something. But do look things up and learn from examples. Don't violate anyone's copyright. You should always cite in a works cited section. You should cite the code examples. Help with changing color from, and then perhaps you paste in the web page address, pythonhelp.com, or perhaps. That is part of my rules for citing other people's code, adding that documentation. Don't forget spacing. All of this code must be left aligned along your code window. If you even have so much as one space in there, whoops, I'm sorry, I messed up there. If you just even have one space there or there, it won't work. If you have everything spaced in one space consistently, the whole program, it still might not work. It depends on how fussy the website or software that you're using. Your indentation must be out here at the left edge with no indentation, actually, in this particular code example. Okay, good luck, and see me if you have questions if you're a student in one of my classes. Otherwise, you'd have to find me, and I'm in Pennsylvania.